Hi, I'm Josie, I'm 33 years old, and I've spent more time behind a camera than with people. My family owns hotels and restaurants, but instead of joining their business, I followed my own passion, photography. I work as a freelance photographer, taking pictures for magazines and advertisements. It's not always easy, but I love it. One day, my old camera broke, and I needed a new one, so I went to a tech store to look for a replacement. That's when I met Thomas. He worked there, but unlike other salespeople, he wasn't pushy or trying to sell me the most expensive camera. He was just kind. "What are you looking for?" he asked. I sighed, "Something that won't quit on me in the middle of a shoot." He chuckled and helped me find the perfect camera. Before I left, he casually asked for my number, saying he just wanted to check in later to see if the camera was working well. I played along, joking, "If you send me spam messages, you owe me a coffee." Instead of sending spam, he called and asked me out for coffee. I said yes, why not? Life is short. From that day on, we spent more and more time together. We explored the city, visited bookstores, and tried out little cafes. He loved talking about tech, and I loved capturing our moments with my camera. The more time we spent together, the more I realized how easy it was to be around him. The proposal. 8 months later, Thomas surprised me with a weekend getaway. He picked me up in his old Jeep, which rattled like it might fall apart at any moment. We drove to a small cabin by the lake, a peaceful place surrounded by tall trees. That night, we sat by the fire, roasting marshmallows. Thomas was quieter than usual, like he had something on his mind. "I love this," he finally said, "us, and I hope you feel the same." I smiled, "Yeah, I do." Then, out of nowhere, he pulled out a small box. My heart skipped a beat. "Marry me, Josie, for real," he blurted, looking both excited and nervous. I burst out laughing. It was so unexpected. "Thomas, this might be the worst proposal ever, but yes, of course, yes." He sighed in relief. "I thought I'd have to convince you more." We spent the rest of the night talking about our future, not just the big things, like marriage, but little things, if we needed a new couch, whether his Jeep would survive another winter, and how we'd make our life together work. Meeting the families. Meeting Thomas's parents was difficult. His mom and sister weren't exactly welcoming. "So, Josie," his mom said, barely looking at me, "what do you do for a living? How much do you make?" "I'm a freelance photographer," I answered. "My income depends on my projects." His sister snorted. "Freelance? That sounds like a fancy way of saying unemployed." They both laughed. My face grew hot, but before I could say anything, Thomas squeezed my hand. "That's enough," he said firmly. "I love her, and she's amazing at what she does." Dinner was filled with more comments about my job being a hobby, and how Thomas deserved someone better. I was relieved when we finally left. Meeting my parents was the complete opposite. They welcomed Thomas with warm smiles, asking him about his interests and dreams. No judgment, just kindness. As we left, Thomas looked at me and smiled. "Your parents are amazing. I needed that." "They already love you," I reassured him. Wedding drama and family issues. Thomas and I wanted a small, simple wedding, something meaningful, but his family didn't like that idea. "A small wedding? More like a cheap one," his sister mocked. His mom sneered, "Guess you can't afford anything better." We ignored them and had the wedding we wanted. It was perfect, but after we got married, things only got worse. His mom and sister started showing up at our home unannounced, usually around mealtime. They'd make rude comments, pretending they were jokes. "So, Josie," his sister smirked one evening, "still taking pictures for pennies?" I stayed calm. Photography can actually pay very well. One day, she bluntly asked, "How much do you make?" Before I could answer, Thomas snapped, "That's none of your business. Josie isn't living off me, we're partners." But the worst part, his sister, Ashley, always asked Thomas for money. Sometimes, he gave in, other times, he refused. One night, after another argument over money, I sighed, "We need boundaries, Thomas, this can't go on forever." "I know," he admitted, "it's just, family is complicated." The final straw. Everything came to a breaking point at a family dinner. It was Ashley's birthday, and she had already decided on her gift, a designer bag that cost over $1,000. Thomas, you know what I want, right? She said, fully expecting him to buy it for her. Thomas shook his head. Ashley, I can't just spend money like that anymore. I'm married now, and we have responsibilities. She scowled. Oh, come on. Since when did you stop spoiling your little sister? What, is Josie controlling you now? Silence. Everyone at the table stared at me. Thomas sighed and held my hand under the table. No, Ashley, we've made a budget, and we're sticking to it. Ashley jumped up from her chair, furious. This is your fault, she snapped at me. You're just using him. Before you, Thomas always had enough for me. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Ashley. But before I could say anything else, I knew one thing. This wasn't just about money, this was about control, and I wasn't going to let her push us around anymore. Standing up to his family, I never told Thomas to stop helping you. We're just trying to be responsible, his mom said, defending Ashley like always. Thomas, she's your sister, you can't abandon her. What kind of brother refuses to help? She added. Thomas had enough. He stood up and took my hand. That's it, we're leaving. I don't need to explain our choices to anyone. As we walked out, Ashley cried, and his mom gave us a cold stare. That was the last straw. We decided to take a break from them for a while. We needed peace. A few days later, we packed our bags and went on a short trip, just the two of us. When we returned, we felt refreshed, but Ashley wasn't done. As we carried our bags inside, we were shocked to find her in our apartment. You think you can go on vacations with my brother's money while I get nothing? She yelled the moment she saw me. I took a deep breath. Ashley, I pay for our trips with my own money. But then I saw her pulling my clothes from the closet and throwing them on the floor. Lies, she shouted. She pointed at my things. All of this was bought with Thomas's money, right? You live in luxury while I get nothing? Before I could stop her, she grabbed my new camera and smashed it on the ground. The sound of it breaking hit me like a punch to the chest. That's enough, I yelled. Get out of our apartment, now. A few minutes later, Thomas walked in. When he saw the mess and my broken camera, his face darkened with anger. He immediately called Ashley. His voice was cold. Stay away from us. Respect our space. As I tried to pick up the broken pieces of my camera, she hung up after throwing a few more insults at us. Thomas turned to me, his expression softening. I'm so sorry, Josie. I'll get you a new camera. We'll fix this. I nodded, too upset to speak. We cleaned up in silence, knowing one thing for sure, we wouldn't let his family come between us again. An unexpected invitation. A few weeks later, Ashley called Thomas. Her voice was cheerful, which was unusual. She announced that she was engaged and invited us to her birthday dinner at Regal Terrace, the most expensive restaurant in town. Normally, I would have rolled my eyes, but this time, I smiled. Thomas looked confused. I thought you wanted nothing to do with Ashley after what she did? I leaned in and whispered, trust me, we shouldn't miss this. He studied my face, then nodded, all right, if you say so. That evening, we dressed up, Thomas in a sharp suit, me in a stylish black dress. When we arrived, we saw his whole family sitting at a big table. Ashley's fiancé was there too, looking smug. Ashley waved at us. Look who decided to show up. Come, sit with us. But as we got closer, I noticed something. There was no seat for me. His mom smirked. Oh dear, looks like there's no extra chair. Josie, maybe you can stand or sit at the bar? Ashley grinned, pretending to be sweet. Some family members chuckled, while others looked uncomfortable. Thomas clenched his fists. We should leave, we don't need this. But I placed a hand on his arm. No, let's stay. He looked confused but trusted me. Then, the restaurant manager walked up. I'm sorry, but we're fully booked tonight. There's no extra chair available. Ashley and her mom's smiles grew. They thought they had one. But then, the manager turned to me. His tone changed. However, we do have a special VIP table reserved for the daughter of the owner of Regal Terrace. Miss Josie, your table is ready. Silence. Everyone at the table froze. Ashley and her mother looked like they had seen a ghost. Thomas turned to me, shocked. Your dad owns this place? I nodded, smiling. I wanted you to know me for who I am, not because of my family. He chuckled, shaking his head. You're full of surprises. We followed the manager to a private table with a stunning city view, while Thomas's family whispered among themselves, their confidence shattered. A dose of reality. About 20 minutes later, Ashley and her mom came over, looking embarrassed. Josie, we didn't expect the bill to be this high, Ashley mumbled. Since we're family, could you? I raised an eyebrow. Oh, I thought you said earlier that I wasn't family. Her mom stepped in, desperate. Please, Josie, we didn't mean it, help us out. Thomas squeezed my hand under the table. I looked at them, then turned to Thomas, who gave me a knowing nod. I think it's best if you pay for your own meal tonight, I said firmly. It's important to live within your means, don't you agree? Ashley's face fell, her mother's expression tightened. Without another word, they turned and walked back to their table, now forced to deal with the consequences of their spending. After that night, everything changed. Thomas's family, who once looked down on me, suddenly acted overly nice. They showered me with compliments, sent invitations, and pretended they had always liked me. It felt fake, like bad actors in a poorly written play. We kept our distance, enjoying our peaceful life instead. Then, we heard some interesting news. Ashley's fiancé had called off their engagement. I can't handle this kind of drama, he reportedly said. I couldn't blame him. A new beginning. One afternoon, Thomas and I were at my parents' house, sipping tea as the sun set. His phone kept buzzing. They're trying really hard, he said, glancing at messages from his mom. I chuckled. Too hard, it's embarrassing. Then I turned to him. But I'm more interested in you and my dad. Thomas's face lit up. Your dad's amazing. He offered to invest in my startup. He thinks my tech idea has real potential. My mom walked over with more tea, smiling. We believe in supporting dreams, and we believe in you, Thomas. Thomas squeezed her hand. Thank you, that means everything to me. We talked about the future, his business, our dreams, and one day, starting a family. Do you think you're ready for parenthood? My dad teased. Thomas laughed. With Josie, I'd be ready for anything. As the days passed, Thomas focused on his startup with my dad's guidance. I continued my photography, imagining a future where a little one might one day tug at my skirt, eager to see the world through my lens. One evening, as we sat on the couch, city lights twinkling outside, I asked, Thomas, do you ever think about how crazy our journey has been? He pulled me close. Every day, but I wouldn't change a thing. Not even your sister's drama, I teased. Well, maybe that, he admitted with a grin. We spent the rest of the night dreaming about our future, nursery themes, the kind of parents we wanted to be. As I lay in bed, the last thing I saw was my engagement ring, shining softly in the dim light. This was true happiness.